Hi, my name's Miranda Collins. I'm a social
Hey.
worker here at Eastern, and what's your name?
I'm Edith Motley.
Okay, Miss Motley. Before we get started, I want to go over just a couple things about our policies here, and then we'll dive right in. So we have the policy of confidentiality. What that means is everything you say within this room will be kept in this room. The only instances that confidentiality will be broken is if you say that you are going to harm yourself or someone else, or you mention child abuse or neglect. Other than that, I'll take some notes to keep in your file simply so I can keep up with things day to day, and that way I have record of what's going on. Other than that, everything stays here. Now, give me a little information on why you're coming here today.
Well, I was on welfare getting some food stamp assistance to help feed my family and my 3 kids. But the government doesn't agree with my job, I guess, and says it's not real, so they're canceling my food stamps.
Okay.
And I just really need some help acquiring that so I can keep taking care of my family.
Okay.
I don't really know what to do.
Okay, I understand. Now, when you say they don't consider your job real, what do you do?
Well, I'm not from this area. I actually moved here because of my boyfriend, Pat. Me and my kids decided to relocate to be with him, and they live in this tiny, really secluded area in eastern Kentucky. It's just all of them and their family, and I take care of his sick grandmother. So I give her like baths and help feed her and do the like housework and stuff that she needs done.
Okay.
I get paid $33 a month for that.
That's a little rough because I know that that's a lot of time and effort put in on your part, and that doesn't really give you enough to really support your family.
It's definitely a full-time job.
Okay. So it sounds like you're telling me we need to somehow get your job considered a job so you can get paid for it so you can support your family and your kids. Okay. That's totally doable. That's education and certifications. That's something we can look into.
My kids mean everything to me. I just want to give them the best.
I completely understand that. You know, kids are blessings. So I completely understand that. So you're living with your boyfriend Pat and his family. So is he giving you any help or any assistance in what you're trying to do?
No, he's an alcoholic. All he does is drink beer, and he's been arrested for a few times for drinking too much, public intoxication, DUIs, and I mean, he does work on like the family cars and vehicles if they need it, but they pay him in beer, so it's really not a job.
Yeah, it's not helping you. Okay. Is there? I know you said that you moved here from. You're not from here. That you moved here. Do you have any contact with your previous family? Anybody that can kind of help you while we try and get you some further education?
Not really. They kind of decided not to talk to me anymore because I moved from, we were not middle class, but we were at least working class. Like, we had our needs met. We didn't need to live off the government. We can make it work, even if it was paycheck to paycheck sometimes. And when I picked up and took my 3 kids with me to move in with, this guy I love, they decided to cut contact with me because he is a lower class. And
I understand. So, do you have your high school diploma?
I do.
Okay. So, really, we just need to bump that so that we can get you...
And I don't know if there's a difference, but it's not a GED. It's actually from high school.
Okay, so you actually graduated high school, so you remember going through the classes and things like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm really, really sorry. I understand that this is really, really hard, and it's very difficult to kind of try and balance everything and try to figure out how to feed your family on very low income, and I know living off the government is not a great option. I know it's not. I know that it kind of puts you in between a rock and a hard place, and dealing with, your boyfriend who isn't supporting you also, and it's a lot for you to juggle, and I know that must be really, really hard. So I'm really glad you came in to try and at least put yourself in a better spot to be able to provide for your kids. You know, you're going to set an example.
Like, they get the lunch at school and breakfast for free because of the low income. We just filled out a little form, and they didn't take job into consideration. They just took an income. So
nice.
They get that, and like for dinner, if there's not enough food, I'll go hungry and give it to them.
I understand. I totally do. So what it sounds like we need to do is we need to get you certified to be a caretaker. Then once we do that, we can then apply to the state and say, hey, you're doing kinship care, you're taking care of kin, to try and get you paid through the government. That way you would be able to get a stipend, you know, monthly, weekly, however they do that. That way you would have benefits for what you were doing. And I know that you're still kind of making money, but you're not making enough to live off of. Does that sound kind of what you're going with this? That you
Yeah, I'm just nervous because where I don't get a lot of money, like, I can't afford to go anywhere, and I don't know how me getting there and back would be applicable because I'm constantly at his grandma's house taking care of her.
okay.
So I would just need, I guess, to help someone take care of her while I do this and some way to pay for it and get there.
Okay, so I guess the first thing that we need to figure out is where he would be going, so we can figure out some transportation.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we did that, if the classes are at day or night, we could always look at her insurance, because she's on Medicaid or Medicare, depending on her age.
She's 89.
So Medicare. So we can definitely look into some home health care, because I know they can bring in a nurse a couple hours a day, and that would be enough time for you to take your classes, come home, and then switch out. That way, and also that way, on a couple days a week, you would have time for your kids. You know, sit down at home, do homework, do a normal parent activity.
Yeah.
That way, it's not just you,
Mm-hmm.
because it really shouldn't be that way. You don't burn out, you don't feel overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to take care of all of these people, that gives you time to take care of yourself too.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess our first step, what we need to do is I will begin looking into programs that do certify you for this type of thing. And of course I'll make a list, where they're located, we can map it out. And then we can start making decisions based on their class times, what best transportation we can use, if it's close enough that maybe you can just catch a ride with somebody in the family that's, it's not super far away, or if maybe they would be willing to, the classes meet you halfway, kind of like satellite campuses.
Mm-hmm.
Then once we kind of plan that out and you've made some decisions on that, where you want to go and the transportation, we can worry about financial aid, making sure that it's paid for, because we can always get you financial aid through the government. And I'll help you do that paperwork. We can come in the office and we can fill everything out, compare everything. And then we can also start looking into Medicare's benefits on getting you somebody to also step in and help you.
Mm-hmm.
That way you're not the only caretaker.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound like an okay plan?
Yeah.
That basically covers everything. I know it's a little bouncy because it's all dependent on what kind of programs are in the area, and kind of bouncing the schedule around to make sure that, as you said, that there's somebody still taking care and that you have time at home too.
Mm-hmm. And I guess another thing I want is to make sure that, like, my first priority is I'm a mom. So if things don't work with Pat because he won't change, that I'll have enough stability to leave and know that I'm taken care of. Because even though he doesn't help, the family is there for me to at least lean on a little bit.
Yeah.
And I know that at least my kids are with someone familiar.
Yeah, that's understandable.
So, because I don't know what's going to happen. All he does is drink, and I don't want my kids around that.
I understand.
But I don't have money to go anywhere.
But at least with some certifications, even if you want to start practicing outside of the home, you want to go work in a hospital, if you want to go work in doctor's offices, we can get you in kind of a stable position to where you can kind of, I don't want to say take care of yourself on your own, because you do have a support system, but we kind of can push you up a little bit, that if anything does go wrong, that you have the ways to maintain and take care should you need to.
Because right now I'm stuck.
Yeah, I understand. That's being stuck in a hole. It's a little hard to get back out. So I understand. This way, at least we'll give you a start, and then of course, it's options. You know, maybe Pat wakes up tomorrow and by some miracle, everything's fine. I know that's a miracle, but your worst case scenario will play by it. You know, that way you have everything, should everything just go wrong. That way you have access to what you need. But that way you have it, but you don't have to use it. You have options that you can play with, should you need to. Especially once your kids get older, you may want to, you know, work a little bit more hours. So if they decide that they want to go on to get an education, you have the money for that. You know, that's something that you can keep your options open, especially later.
Because right now they're young, but I definitely want to be able to give them whatever they need. Yeah,
and that's something, especially later. That way, if you want to go back and maybe further your certifications, or you want to go do something else with your certifications, you have that decision. Okay, so what I'll do is the first and foremost is deciding what is in your area. So I'll try and gather that before our next meeting, no more than 2. So about 2 weeks, I'll have everything that you need to decide on whatever program you want. And what I'll do is I'll give you about a month or 2. You know, we're at the tail end of a semester, so you have all summer to make this decision and apply to a program. If you want to go home, sit down and talk to your kids about it. You know, make some decisions that way. That way, kids are important. They have a little bit of input, at least a little. That way you can kind of break the news to them and see how they feel about it. And that'll give you time to mull over it, make your decisions. Once we do that, you get your financial aid set up. You fill out that paperwork. You fill out the application to wherever you need. And we'll start filing for the Medicare to bring in somebody to assist. And even when you start applying to school, if you want to go ahead and do that so that they can become familiar with the family, we can bring them in. And that's not a big deal. We can file that with the insurance.
Okay. I definitely think I'd have to talk to them about it because it's different from where I lived. Like where I lived, there'd be no problem. But they're all about themselves, just taking care of themselves, no matter how, I guess, valid they are. I don't know, that's not the right word, but, you know, how certified they are to do the job. So I don't know how keen they'd be about letting someone
even
else
if it's
in.
somebody, you know, that comes in and teaches somebody in the family how to do it. You know, even if it's somebody that comes in and kind of overwatches it, you might need to spin it that way. It's, you know, you need to know how to take care of somebody to do it correctly. You know, you don't want to further their health in the bad stream. You don't want to do anything to harm anyone. So even if they just came in and kind of helped teach the family how to take care of her the proper way.
I feel like that would be a better option.
Yeah, and then if the family, if it just became too much, or there was just no time for the family, he or she would be acclimated enough to the family to be able to step in if necessary. That's something we can look in once we start applying to your schools, and we can start, you know, we can bring the family in and have a conversation about it. Once we find the nurse or the CNA, they definitely can come in. We can have a big powwow meeting and kind of introduce everybody and sit down and kind of discuss the options. Because that's going to be kind of up to the insurance as to what's covered and what's not. But we can cross that bridge when we get to it and kind of see what the family's feeling at the time. But at least we'll have you on your way to start taking classes. Okay. So next month, we'll have you a college picked out, transportation set up if necessary. If it's close enough, you know, we'll take care of that. We'll fill out your financial aid, and we'll get you applied, and we will take care of the home health care. That one I will have to do a little research on, so it may take me a couple weeks because I'm going to have to look into her Medicare policy and look into what's covered and what's not covered, and kind of start asking around for doctors that do that kind of thing and the nurses that can come out and at least assist in teaching and caretaking and be able to step in if anything goes wrong. Because I don't want you to be guilty if anything goes wrong because you were not there. So I want to make sure that we have enough structure in place that should they need said nurse that they can contact and get them to come in should anything go wrong. That will take me a little bit because I have to go through their process. So hopefully within the next 2 or 3 weeks I'll have all of that information for you at the same time. If not, I will have college paperwork for you first, and I will keep you posted about Medicare because I know how they are, and I know that's going to be a very difficult conversation. And I do, especially since your kids are so important, I want to make sure that you have classes that work with parents. Because there are snow days. There are days that classes, kids' classes get canceled and you got to go to class as a college student. So I want to make sure that you get a program that understands that you have both needs because you are a mother first. Professors that would be willing to allow you to take your kids to class, or if they have a daycare on campus, that way you could drop your kids off at a playground to play for a couple hours while you're in class, if you needed it. That's something we'll kind of compare with the colleges, because I know not every college is going to have that option, but I will try my best to try and find you something, or even something that's just close to it, a playground center or something that if it's an early afternoon after they get out, that you have somewhere that you can bring your kids with you. I work on that too, trying to give you the most options in your area for certifications. Is there any other worries you have about it? Anything else that I can do to make it easier?
No, I think I covered everything right now. I can't think of anything else.
So the next couple of weeks, I'll get all of my paperwork together. I'll give it to you. You can go home and start making some decisions and kind of break the news to the family, kind of open up that door for conversation. Then before the end of the summer, so about 3 months, we'll have the decision on where you're going to go. And we'll start financial aid, applications, and have all of that put together. How's that sound?
It sounds good.
So that way this fall, no later than maybe second fall semester, you've got everything taken care of, and we can get you into classes. So that we can get you graduated faster.
Okay.
Okay? So, do you want to set up your next meeting? I know I said it would take me about 2 weeks to get everything together. Do you want to meet to touch base next week?
That would be okay, yeah.
Okay. Same time and same day like we did today? Or do you want to alter it?
I think it'll work, yeah.
Okay, we can do that. Next week we'll touch base. If you have any more questions, obviously take this week. If there's anything else, write me a list of anything else you worry about. Especially your kids' schedules for their fall break or anything like that. If you have any other issues, make me a list, bring it back to me, and I can try and work anything out that I can get done, okay?
Okay.
Okay, it was very nice to meet you today.
Nice to meet you too.
And thank you for coming in.
Thank you.